Talk Show, and I'm your host, Jazzy. We've got a young man on here that I got in touch with. He had some footage, and I loved his footage, and then I went to his channel, so I started looking at his channel, searching it up. I said, wait a minute, this young man into history. I love it. I love it. I have on the line, tell him your name, young man.
Yeah, my name is Ken with the YouTube channel History X. Thanks for having me on.
All right, tell my TV viewers, how did you get into a channel with history? What inspired you to do that?
It all started during the pandemic when we were all quarantined. We were all locked inside, and everyone was on YouTube. And I just decided to start making videos about subjects that I was searching for, but I wasn't really finding. So I just decided to start posting videos, and this would have been in February of 2021. So it was pretty much right in the middle of the quarantine situation when everybody else was on YouTube. So it was a perfect storm. I started posting videos, and the channel just blew up.
Yeah, it did. And yes, it did. Because I'm in Mobile, Alabama, and it just I said, wait a minute. It popped up, and I said, I'm going to this channel. I watched it, then I said, I'm going to this channel. I got in touch with Ken because I wanted to put it on my show. I wanted to use his footage. So you have to get approval. You can't just use someone's footage unless you kind of get approval. I know on my end, because I got a TV show, I have to ask. And I have to get him to sign a little contract, and we straight on that. But I wanted to interview him. Now, tell us a little something about this footage that I'm finna put on. What made you
Yeah, the footage that you're talking about, the footage, you said, like you said, you sent me the contract and everything like that. But what it came down to is this story that I had never heard about. And so I focus on stories that not too many people talk about. When it comes to my channel, it's all about World War II, primarily. And so a lot of other World War II channels, they'll focus on big battles. They'll focus on, battleships and airplanes. But what I like to try and find are stories about people that not too many of us know about. And so the footage that you and I are talking about, it's footage of these black women that were sent overseas. Now, this is the only all black, all female battalion that was sent overseas, sent to Europe during World War II. So, okay, that in and of itself, all right, I'm fascinated. That's great. Tell me about these women, okay? But then what they ended up doing was something that, previous groups of men, previous groups just couldn't accomplish, which was organizing the mail.
Okay.
And you're talking about millions and millions of pieces of mail that was just getting stockpiled in warehouses, and it wasn't making its way out to the men that were actually fighting in the war. So it was a fascinating story.
And you got that footage, put it together. I mean, I like the way you put it together. I'm excited to put it on because some of this footage I had not seen. Some of it I had not seen.
You know what, Jazzy? You know how this all really came about. Like I said, I had never heard the story, but the way I heard the story was actually, so Tyler Perry, and I'm sure you've heard of Tyler Perry.
Yeah.
Decided to make a movie about these women, and it's on Netflix, so it's called The 688. But I wouldn't have known the story unless Tyler Perry decided to, spend the money, spend the time, spend the resources to produce their story.
That's right.
So you really have to credit Tyler Perry.
Yes.
And you have to credit Netflix for putting it out there. So what I did is I actually tracked down the original footage of these women marching in Europe, organizing mail in Europe, and that's what you see in my video, along with interviews of Charity Adams, who was the major in charge, Noel Campbell, who was her second in command, as well as a couple of the other women that were actually members of the 6888. So I was able to find interviews, I was able to find the footage, piece it all together, and that's the video that you found. I guess that was last week.
Yeah, last week. And I said, wow, look at this here. I said, so here I go now. I said, okay, now I'm finna get with this brother. I'm thinking it was a black person posted it, I said, I'm finna get with this brother. So when I call you and you say, hi, how are you? And I said, you're white? And he said, yes, I am. I said, and you, and me and him were laughing about it. I say, this is a younger white guy that put together some footage about some black women, but it's history, because I read all history. I read all history. And so he put this together, and I said, wow, I got to interview you, man. I mean, you cool. You just cool.
Well, I appreciate that. But, it's a situation where, and your listeners and viewers need to understand, I'm a white guy up in Minnesota. You're a black woman down in Alabama, correct?
Alabama, yes.
Okay, yeah. And you think about what would have to happen. I guess what I'm getting at is, you think about what would have to happen for our paths to cross. I mean, wow. It's pretty much impossible. My path is not going to cross yours, unless it's something like a shared interest, right?
That's right.
A shared interest in history, a shared interest in a particular story that you might be fascinated about. So if it wasn't for, and I kind of, you got to give Tyler Perry credit. If it wasn't for Tyler Perry, telling this story, if it wasn't for a platform like YouTube that brings people together that have common interests, you know what? There's no way you'd be talking to me.
You're right. You're right. I wouldn't have knew anything about it. Anything about it. And thank you for mentioning Mr. Perry. Thank you so much for mentioning him. See, he's just cool, ladies. He's cool.
And that was really the purpose of my video. Tyler Perry does this movie, and it's a pretty good movie. I thought he did a very good job of trying to highlight the effort made by blacks and African Americans during World War II, because those are stories that really aren't told very much, unless you talk about things like the Tuskegee Airmen, unless you talk about Doris Miller during Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, some of the Buffalo Soldiers. The Buffalo Soldiers. Do you know how I learned about the Buffalo Soldiers? A white guy was an insurance guy, came to my house years ago. He come to my house and my kids were small, and he said the Buffalo Soldiers. I said, what? He said the Buffalo Soldiers. I said, wait a minute, now I'm missing something. A white guy told me about the Buffalo Soldiers. So we're showing tonight that it is just history. We need to pull up history. Pull it up regardless of what color, who did it. Just get it. Get that education. Get that history. So your information will be, your conversation will be sparkling and informational. It will. It will. And yours is informational, because your channel, now y'all got to go to his channel, because he got the and you know what I'm going to look at next, the Hindenburg. Tonight, I'm checking out the Hindenburg. I love the Hindenburg. That was one of those gas balloons that blew up. I love it. So I'll be on that tonight. And you have so many on there.
Yeah, again, the whole point of my channel, the whole point of History X is to try and focus on stories that not too many people know about. You talk about the Hindenburg, and you talk about the Zeppelins and the dirigibles. These are flying airships that were, they're, literally huge, but they were also big news in the 1930s, almost 100 years ago. But nowadays, people don't really either know about them, or if they know about them, they don't talk about them. But people don't understand, when you think about the Navy, the U.S. Navy today, we have aircraft carriers that go all over the world. We have aircraft carriers, in the Pacific, in the Atlantic, Indian Ocean, all that stuff. But what people don't know is that we actually had flying aircraft carriers almost 100 years ago.
Yes.
And so these are interesting stories that I like to tell. You talk about the Hindenburg blowing up. This actually occurred like maybe 7-8 years before the Hindenburg. But the United States actually had flying aircraft carriers where planes would get launched and recovered in the middle of the year. And nobody talks about these stories. And then you go back to like stories of like the women of the 688s.
Yes.
Organizing mail. You know, what's the big deal? They're organizing the mail. Well, think about the soldiers that weren't getting the mail and how low and how depressed they would get not hearing from home. Well, these women figured out a way to do what a man couldn't do, you know, and they figured out a way to get the mail out there. And it kind of motivated me to look into some other stories. You mentioned the Buffalo Soldiers.
Yes.
You know, there were other stories that black soldiers, they basically took on the jobs that no one else wanted to do. The Red Ball Express. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Do you know what the Red Ball Express is? Okay. So you're talking about truck drivers during World War II that, you know, had to drive hundreds of miles. And you could say, all right, well, what's the big deal? You know, all right, they drove trucks. Great. Good for them. Yeah. Well, these trucks didn't have heat. You know, you're talking about 20, 30 degrees. They didn't have heat, and they had to drive for hours and hours and hours with no sleep, you know, through to deliver these supplies. It's like that's a hard job.
It is.
To drive 30 hours without sleep.
Wow.
Or, the women of the 688, they're in these airplane hangars. They aren't heated.
Wow.
But yet they did these very hard jobs. And, you start digging into this. And, of course, when you talk about World War II history, and like I said, white guy from Minnesota, the majority of my audience, well, guess what? It's going to be white guys.
Mm-hmm. But you see now, it's some black women. Black woman, too.
Well, and that was a risk. I didn't really think about it. It's like, so when I create this video about the women of the 688, you know, because it's a fascinating story, but then the video did really, you know, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of views, but you risk alienating your existing audience. White guys interested in World War II. Well, they actually responded pretty well.
Yes, they did.
The other thing is,
I seen some of the comments and stuff. I really did.
Now they want to know more. It's like, well, tell me more. You know. Well, then you come across the Black Panthers, and the Black Panthers were a tank division during World War II, the 761st, and that was a fascinating story. So I found some interviews from the Black Panthers.
Yeah, I got a series on that I bought years and years ago. And I'm gonna have to try to see how to get it to you where you can kind of see that on them.
Is it on your YouTube channel?
Nope. I don't post other people's stuff unless I get it. I bought it, and it's just a lot of interviews and Stokely Carmichael and all of them are on there. Fred Hampton and it was some white people that went out and interviewed them, and they said the only reason we're letting this happen because we know it's gonna be history. We know it's going to be history. So it's a group of whites. Maybe one day I can try to get in touch with them. But they were the one that had the cameras and could film. And the Panthers let them film them. They were the only ones that did it, too. Yeah, but and I'll get their name off of it because I looked at it yesterday. I got four DVDs with it. I bought it. But I just want to say that I want to commend you for what you put together. And you wasn't a funny person. You were very professional. When I said, I just typed on there, wow, I'd love to put this on my TV show. I'd love to use it. But I have to have permission. And you called me and say, hello, how you doing? And you were so cool. You were so cool and down to earth. And as y'all see in these pictures, you can tell that this young man is into those airplanes. He's all his pictures just standing there in front of those planes. And this is what he's into. So I want y'all to tell them where the name of your channel.
Well, the name of the channel is History X.
Okay.
History and the letter X. And I always tell people, if you want to find me on YouTube, you gotta go to the search bar, type in history, the letter X, and then put the word channel after that. Because if you just go History X,
is it gonna pull up anything?
I didn't really think about this when I created the channel, but there was a movie that came out about 20 years ago with Ed Norton called American History X, and it was a very racist. It's about, Nazi skinheads, Aryan, And so a lot of times people look for my channel and you come up with clips from American History X, which,
No, we don't want, we want channel. Give them the channel. We want to get your channel. Pull it up.
Yeah,
We don't
so
want to go to that.
Search for History X channel and you'll find it.
History X channel. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been going across the screen. Y'all know to have a pencil and a paper when Jazzy Red come on. I want to thank you again, Ken, for this interview. Thank you so much for being knowledgeable of history, period. And thank you for putting them triple X ladies up there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again, Ken. Here. Thank you so much.
Oh, I was happy to be on here. You know, it's been great to meet you.
Okay.
And you think, like I said before, you think about what would have to happen for somebody like me to connect with somebody like you. You know, and that's the beauty of, you know, stuff like YouTube and
that and Facebook and all of them. Facebook too.
Well, and another I did a video about the pairs of shoes that were found around the shipwreck of the Titanic.
Now I gotta go to that. But now look, we gonna hit it, but I'm running out of time 'cause I gotta put your footage on. And this footage is finna come on right behind him, ladies and gentlemen. And you can reach out to him. He has a website and everything. If you go on his channel, you'll find all his information out, okay? All right, but Ken, we finna do them some justice. I'm finna put the footage on right behind you. Here, I thank you so much. Here, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, and I hope people enjoy learning about these women.
All right, Jazzy Red, we love you. Peace out.
Much mail, train loads of mail that they could not get out because they didn't have anybody to do it.
We found bags of mail. A lot of them were rat infested. It was a mess. It was awful.
We did have 3 girls to get killed in our unit overseas.
I refused to accept any segregated facilities that they wanted to create for them. After that, they didn't try.
This video about the extraordinary women of the 6888 Central Postal Battalion from World War II is made possible by the members of History X. The 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion. Known simply as the 6888. The only all-black, all-female unit deployed overseas during World War II. During World War II, there was a significant shortage of soldiers who were able to manage the postal service for the U.S. Army overseas.
The greater part of a soldier's day is mail calls because they want to see what's going on at home.
Many letters and packages had only the first name of the intended recipient, or just a nickname.
Oftentimes people would just send mail to Johnny or Johnny Smith or whatever.
And by 1945, the U.S. Army faced a massive backlog of undelivered mail. Over 17 million pieces of undelivered mail. Army officials decided this undelivered mail was hurting morale. To tackle this, the 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion was formed, comprising of 855 African American women from the Women's Army Corps, commonly referred to as WACs. Their mission? To sort and deliver the mail to over 7 million soldiers scattered across Europe.
You Adams? Yes, sir. He said, what do you want to do? I don't know, sir. He said, I don't know what I'm going to do with you young women. You're too young to be in the Army in the first place. That was on Saturday, and Monday morning I was made a company commander. There were even women who came from families where there were no sons, and they joined the service to represent their family in the war effort. And the first group of the black women, only 2 people got a uniform the first day we went for uniforms. Either the waistline was too small, the skirts were too short, the sleeves were always too short. But we got pieces of uniform. Everybody got a hat and a purse. And so that we were authorized to use all the pieces we had and just keep on adding to it as we got the other pieces. At the end of about 3 weeks, when the last shoe order came in, we finally got everybody uniform. And we loved them. They were afraid that if they sent black wax overseas, we would cause a problem. I never have found out what they meant by that. But eventually there was sufficient pressure from the press that they finally decided to go overseas. And that's when I had been given orders to go overseas. Although I didn't know what the job was and I didn't know where I was going when I left the stage, I knew that given the same opportunity and training, I'm sure I can do as well as anybody else.
Charity Adams called me at home Christmas of 1940. She says, well, I would like for you to be my battalion executive officer, and asked me if I wanted to go overseas. I said yes.
Captain Noel Campbell and I were sent over a couple of weeks ahead of the troops to get things ready. We thought we were going to Paris, and we opened our sealed orders 1 hour after we were in flight and found that we were going to London. We found out that we were going to be in the Postal Directory Service.
That was in January 1945. And that's when the 688 Central Postal Director started. And there were 800 women and 23 officers. And Charity Adams and I were sent to England to get a place for those 800 women to live.
There were white wax in lots of places on the UK. And they all used the same WAC recreational hotel in London. And this is where the real problem came in. The Red Cross wanted to set up another hotel for the black wags, and I promised them that it would be over my dead body before anybody slept there, and nobody slept there to my knowledge. I refused to accept any segregated facilities that they wanted to create for them. After that, they didn't try.
We ended up in Birmingham, England, which was a short distance from London. There we were given a dilapidated school that had not been used in I don't know how many years during the war. It told us that's where 800 women and 23 officers were going to live and work.
But it was a big cold stone building. And of course, with our ingenuity, we always try to make everything comfortable.
Noel and I had decided what we would be doing here in an office space and so forth. Then we set out getting the place ready for our troops to come.
In 4 weeks' time, we got the building ready for living quarters and for the work area.
We call it the 688.
On February 15th, 1945, the 6888 arrived in Birmingham, England. This footage shows the battalion marching in review before Lieutenant General John C.H. Lee, whose responsibilities included the mail.
Just before the troops arrived in England, General John C.H. Lee, who was commanding general of the communications zone, invited Noel and me to dinner. And dinner was in our honor, and it was very nice and very swank at the Georges V Hotel. And in the midst of the dinner, General Lee said, "Adams, can your troops march?" And there is only one answer when a general asks you a question. The answer is, you have never seen better marching troops in your life. And he said, when do they arrive? I said, they arrive on the 13th. And he said, I'll be down on the 15th to see them march.
Adam said that she knew that her girls could march and could have a parade. And he asked us, would we be ready? So after we got there, we had to have a parade.
Well, the troops had come over on the Ile-de-France, and it had taken 11 days, and they'd been chased by submarines for several days.
We were about 3/4 way over. The captain discovered a German submarine. So we had to turn and come back toward the United States, make a turn to the east, travel for several miles, and then head back to England.
And being unaccustomed to shipboard facilities, it was a rather sad-looking lot that got off.
When we got to England, we were told that we were going to parade.
And of course, the girls had not marched, they hadn't drilled, but we did it.
All the women had to dress up in their best and join the parade.
We were ready for them, and we marched for General Lee. And he was so pleased, he wrote my father a letter and told him I was a fine young woman. And so I was very pleased.
But I didn't get to parade because I had mumps.
To see the unedited footage of the extraordinary women who served in the 6th 888 Central Postal Battalion during World War II, which was recovered from the National Archives and used in this video, consider becoming a History X member, where you can access other original, unedited History X interviews and videos. The 6th 888 encountered terrible conditions. Cold, unheated warehouses stacked floor to ceiling with undelivered mail.
We were sent to England to redirect mail to every serviceman in the ETO.
And when we arrived, the Battle of the Bulge, which was between December the 15th, 44, and January 15th, 45, had created an enormous backlog of mail. Even all the mail which had gone to the continent for American GIs had been moved back to England because the fighting was so severe. And at that point, they didn't know which way the fighting was going to go. So our first job was to deliver the Christmas packages and the Christmas mail that had piled up from Christmas 1944.
We found bags of mail. A lot of them were rat infested, where people send food, pies, and cakes. They were all vermin infested. It was a mess. It was awful. I mean, you looked around and you said, oh my God, what is this? But then you knew you had to get to work and start doing something. So we used an old airplane hangar and we built a post office out of it. We had 3 shifts, 7 days a week.
I've never seen so much mail. It was such a backlog of mail. Warehouses all over England and France, trainloads of mail that they could not get out because they didn't have anybody to do it.
We mostly existed on sea rations, and it was difficult. It wasn't an easy thing, and it was cold, nothing heated, you know. But we were young, we were strong, and we survived, and we were committed.
We were a self-supporting unit, and we had women who did everything. Our own mess hall, our own supply, own military police. We had our own transportation. With 800 women, we had all kinds of things. We opened up a beauty parlor. We had beauticians. As I said, anything that we needed, we found in our women. With 800 women, you got all kinds of occupations. They gave us fatigues and overcoats and boots and pants and liners, anything that was warm, because back then we wore skirts, no pants at all. That's the first time in the Army that we wore pants, because you almost had to sleep in them because the buildings were so cold. And that's where I first learned to make a fire in my life, because we had no heaters. We had to heat by fireplaces all over the place. We did have 3 girls to get killed in our unit overseas. With 800 women, you got all kinds of occupations. Then we found out that some of them had worked in funeral parlors. And of course, they fixed up the girls beautifully.
Working in shifts around the clock, they developed an innovative tracking system to process approximately 65,000 pieces of mail per shift. This included creating and maintaining a card index, which ultimately contains 7 million cards of servicemen with the same or similar names, using their military serial numbers to distinguish them.
Well, we had a system, and of course we worked with intelligence to keep knowing where the soldiers were going, because they were moving around. And, you know, it was very, very organized.
Our job was to sit with a box in front of you. That's all the women did for 8 hours every day. And they had cards, and they would find where these men were and send it to all of the servicemen in Europe.
Oftentimes people would just send mail to Johnny or, you know, somebody who, there's Johnny, but where's the, so we'd have to have a group set aside that would go through the mail and find out what the family name was, so they would know it was Johnny Smith or whatever, and put it together.
I never saw so many Smiths and Jones. There's so many people with the same name. And the only way we could find out where to send the mail was by the difference in their serial numbers. That is one reason why they told you to put your serial number behind your name.
We had a lot of ingenuity to get it working, get it done.
We had approximately 800 enlisted women and officers. We worked 3 shifts, 8 hours a day, and we did get a commendation for delivering that mail at top speed.
They asked us if we could get it rolling in 6 months or something. We were able to get it rolling in 3 months, caught up in 3 months.
The women of the 688 faced racism and sexism both within the military and abroad.
The American troops received us in lots of ways. There were no white wax near us in Birmingham. The white GIs told tales about us. The Red Cross wanted to segregate us, and the British just wanted to visit us. The citizens received us quite in hand, but with a lot of curiosity.
They had never seen any black people before. We were invited to churches, we were invited everywhere to speak. We had parades, and so they were just lovely to us.
In Birmingham, England, the people were just incredible. We made lots of friends. That's where I got my first fish and chips.
We all kept in touch with those people who were close to us. But they began to have reunions, and I went to my first reunion in 1988. And even though I tell them, please call me by my first name, oh, I can't do that. Amazingly, many people have great difficulty believing that black troops, whether women or men, were very patriotic, and they were there to win the war. And when the war was over, they had done their duty and they wanted to go back home. You don't really think history until after you do it.
For another inspiring story about perseverance during war, check out this video.
Jazzy Red Talk Show, and I'm your host, Jazzy Red. Some people had called me and told me about this. It's time to get the clowns out sign, saying they got some black clowns up there on St. Stephen Road and Center Street, Jazzy. I said, well, okay. I came up and I said, I better film this. I don't know who did it or what strategy they think they used, but let me tell you this. You will not separate us. We done went through this, and we done this in the 70s, and we're not doing this no more, okay? The 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 30s, this done went out. It done went away. You're not gonna separate us. I got good friends, okay? White and black. White and black. You're not gonna separate us. You know my camera trying to get off of this mess. You're not gonna separate us. Jazz has been on TV 16 years, and I don't like it. I don't care who put it up here. You're unprofessional. And to anybody, if you were trying to do the wrong thing here with all of this, because I don't like it. It's in the area I grew up in. I mean, I grew up in the campground. So if you think that you're going to make me go out there and some of go clown, well, we'll see about that. And I know what you're doing. Now let me tell you what we're going to do. We live here and we're going to vote. So I believe that's what you got it up there for. It's time to move the clowns out. I don't like it. It's demeaning. Not only blacks are upset with it, whites are too. The only one that agree to some stuff like that, they kind of cuckoo in the head anyway. But to everybody that is prejudiced, whether you be black, white, Vietnamese, Asian, may all your kids be mixed. Jazzy Red, we love you. Peace out. Jazzy Red Talk Show, and I'm your host, Jazzy Red. I'm here with an important dignitary. He gonna tell you his name, and he's got a public announcement for my TV viewers because we love you, and my YouTubers. He's got a public announcement for you.
Hello, and thank you, Jazzy Red, for this opportunity. My name is Pastor David Edwards, and the public announcement is information that we need in our community, in our city, and it will help someone understand some things about voting. Now, first of all, you can go and check your voter registration and your place of voting because those things have changed. Some people have been taken off of the voters roll. You may have voted last year, you may have voted in the last election, and your name still could be removed from the voting roll. So you need to make sure before you go and vote on the 23rd of September that you have your voting place already known and that you are active in your voter registration. Now, also, there are many people that I'm running into that have had felons in their past. Not necessarily a bad felony, may have been a drug charge or whatever the case may be. That does not negate you from voting. That does not take away your voting rights. One guy hadn't been voting for 20 years because he had a felony 20 years ago. I took him in on his phone, showed him the website. His voter registration was active and his voting place poll was active, and he voted in the last election. So I want to show you exactly where to go. Alabama votes with an S.gov. Go to your phone, pull up your internet, www.alabamavotes with an S.gov. There you'll pull up the Secretary of State website, and you stroll down, and it'll show you how to check your voter registration and register to vote. Although it's a little bit late to register for this election, but if you're not registered, you can go ahead and register it. It's not asking you for detailed information. It only asks you for your name and your date of birth. Once you put that in, it tells you whether or not you can vote or your voting is active, your place of voting, and that'll give you an opportunity to vote in this upcoming mayoral election. So,
we finna show you on the phone. Because I'm going to don't pull it up till we get it on the phone. I'm going to put it right on the phone. We coming back and show you how to pull it up.
Okay, this is the website, alabamavotes.gov. This is the Secretary of State website. You stroll down and it said voter registration, update, and registration. So you can click that button and it'll bring it up where you can check your voter registration and also make sure of your polling place, okay? Once you click that, it tells you online registration, okay, fillable out, and you can fill it out right here, okay? Now, if you're already registered, you don't have to register again. You just simply hit that, and it will give you an option whether or not you need to register or check your registration, okay? So everything is right here, real simple, all right? And you can check your registration for the upcoming election on www.alabamavotes.gov.
Okay, we're coming back. On our conclusion, I'm going to let the rep tell you something.
And once again, my name is David Edwards. I'm also the president of People United to Advance the Dream Mobile Incorporated. Each year, we take children, young people, high school students, college students, and any adults that want to go to Selma, Alabama for the annual Bloody Sunday bridge crossing. Bloody Sunday was the Sunday that average, ordinary, our ancestors wanted to cross the bridge to go to Montgomery and register to vote. But because of the evilness of people, I will call it that, because people did not want you to vote, because when you vote, your vote makes a difference. When you vote, you determine who make the laws, who set the rules, and how you're governed. You're not governed by the President of the United States. You're governed by your local government. Your local government get their laws, and they make their own laws and regulations in the state. So in the city of Mobile, your laws are made, developed, created, and passed right downtown at Government Plaza. So you need to make sure you vote so that you can determine who's going to be implementing those laws over your life, over your family, over your community, over your job, over your city. It's very important. People died that day on that bridge for you to have the right to vote. And if that vote was not that important, there would not be so much voter suppression that they're bringing about now. It used to be a time where you can vote and you had an address and you was a local citizen, you're a local citizen, you're a citizen of the United States, then you could go and vote, cast your vote. Now they put so many restrictions and regulations, and they keep changing the polling place where you vote at to confuse you, to make you get frustrated and say, well, I'm not going to vote. And then they also put this theory out, this conspiracy theory, this gaslighting, that your vote really don't count. But one vote matters. One vote matters. Everybody, we only have one vote. No one else has 2 or 3 votes. You can only vote one time. So that one vote makes up the number that it equals to. Make sure you get someone and take them with you when you go to the poll on September the 23rd to cast your vote for the next mayor of the city of Mobile, Alabama. Make sure your voice is heard. Your ancestors, my ancestors, died for the right that you have to cast your vote and determine your future. Thank you so very much for your time. Appreciate you, Jazzy, for all you do for the community.
And on that note, I'm going to say Jazzy Red. Peace out.
Religion is a duty. I think all people have that. they should have a duty, and that duty is to treat their fellow man right. But I think that a lot of them don't have salvation. That's the difference. When a man has been born again and have the salvation, which is the gift of eternal life, and the keeping power of God, they get along all right, and they go around giving of themselves to help. Sometimes I'm so tired, and I remember way back in the 1930s, Miss Lee, when the Depression was 29, when I was hardly making $1, 50 cents, or 75. I stopped there on the Highway 41 and get neck boned and ham hocks and smoked rib and string beans and beans, and I'm a good cook, and I cook big pans of cornbread. I've seen men that have lost their pride, and I brought them to my house. Didn't know where I was going to get the next nickel from. But you can't be God-given. And I mean, I would feed those people, make big old bowls of potato salad. And today, that's my joy. When people come to my house, I don't go to theaters and I don't go to nightclubs, but I do like to have people to come to my house, and I fix them something to eat and have good friends. I like that because that's the way my Aunt Mahalia was, you know. She always had the coffee pot or some tea cakes or something to give somebody something to eat. And I suppose that's the way I am. And I've seen men that weren't able to pay to buy themselves food. And I think that's one of why God blesses me. I have been able to take that 50 cents. People come to hear me, and maybe they didn't have no money, and maybe they give me 50 cents that night, or maybe they give me $1. It hasn't always been like this. You know that way back. And I can really cook up a mess of food.
I know, you're a good cook.
And I mean, I'd help them people. And I wouldn't give them no soup either. I'd give them some biscuits and cornbread.
Stick to their ribs.
And beans and stuff. So that something can stick there and hold there for a while, you know. And I hope that time will never get again. I hope that we won't have a depression, that men will lose their pride. Now, this would be a disaster if people have to be out of work and cannot be fed. Oh, because I think, you see, that's the first thing Christ did. He didn't tell man to be born again. He started feeding them first. Then he started talking about the spiritual part. But get a man's stomach full, then you can talk about salvation. See, give him something to eat. Fill him up. Then you can talk about it. And if you read through the New Testament, you see that I'm not telling you wrong. Now, there are theologians that know more about the Bible than me, but this is the little part that I've learned for myself to help myself. And every time you read the Bible, you can find a greater and more understanding of it. And I read it to help myself, because it's only the grace of God, because I'm not educated. And if I was educated, God got to keep our mind and keep us in the right channel, that we may be able to communicate with him. And I think that we ought to stop so much talking. That's why I don't go to these meetings, do a lot of blab, blab, blabbing. If you're going to blab, put your money up there.
Father, in heaven. Hallowed be brave.